Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Savvy Weekly Show with your host, Steve D'Angelo. We are back for our second edition of the year for college picks, college basketball, NCAA basketball picks, as we are, I don't know what, 10 days away, 11 days away from Selection Sunday. The lower conference tournaments are, we're getting to the semis. We're going to have some finals tomorrow, on Sunday, rather. So we're going to bring Josh in. He is our resident expert. He's studying the film. He's studying the games. I've been watching more and more. I'm going to get better and better every week. I got some picks for you guys this week. See if Josh has got some firm picks for you as well. We got some big games coming up. So we'll go game through game. We'll probably discuss maybe 7 or 8 games. Again, Josh will talk about some of the top contenders, some sleepers, also the NBA prospects. Make sure you check out last week's show on the Face Off Sports Network. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, sharing, hitting that notification button. Follow me on X at Fantasy Savvy. And on the comeback, we'll bring Josh in. But here we go. NCAA picks for this Saturday. We'll get into the Sunday games a little bit too. Let's go. Welcome to the Fantasy Savvy Weekly Show with your host, Steve D'Angelo, presented by the Face Off Sports Network, discussing high-stakes fantasy football, waiver, fab, free agent pickups, NFL picks, and more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, we bring back Josh. What's up, man?
What's going on?
Yeah,
camera's working, holding up.
Yeah, so everything's gravy right now. So, last week, man, we did the show Thursday, so we didn't have the lines out, but we did give a nice little primer for basically, the teams that you had the best feel for, the team that you liked the most, teams that we didn't really like so much. We talked a lot about the players, so. If you guys missed it, it's a good primer, but we're going to discuss a lot of the same stuff today as well. But make sure you check that out regardless. So let's get right into it. Noon tomorrow, we have St. John's versus Marquette. Pretty big game here. I looked at the line. St. John's is giving 2.5 or they're getting 2.5 rather, and Marquette is home minus 2.5. These two teams played February 4th at MSG, Madison Square Garden. St. John's won 70-64. Marquette is 22-8 on the year. St. John's 26-4. Marquette 14-2 at home. St. John's 7-2 on the road. St. John's maybe without one of their best players, Devion Smith. Looks like he's going to miss this game. So considering that injury there, Josh, who do you like in this game? A revenge game from Marquette. And the last, Marquette's been dominating this matchup, but obviously St. John's is a different product, now with Pitino in his second year. And, after losing, 6-7 straight to Marquette, they beat him earlier this year. So do you see St. John's, without Smith getting the win here?
I mean, they've definitely been the class of the league all year. They're definitely a step above everybody else, I think. Anytime you lose a player, it could be a problem for them. Marquette's definitely the more desperate team. They need the win more, but I'm still sticking with St. John's. They just look a lot better than the rest of the league to me, and they've beaten everybody up pretty much, and I expect them to keep doing it until they prove otherwise.
Yeah, St. John's. So take the points with St. John's. He's saying you could probably maybe get 2.5, 3. Marquette, they beat Providence by 30 at home. They killed Seton Hall, but those two teams stink. So does DePaul. They beat them by 10 at home, but they played UConn back in the beginning of the month. They lost by 8 at home. And then St. John's on the road, took care of Butler by 6, destroyed DePaul, did lose to Villanova by 2, did beat UConn. That's a tough environment to go in and win. So they certainly can pull this one out. Yeah, I think I would lean St. John's as well. Marquette has beat up on them for so long. So it's like Pitino is just kind of running the Big East right now, and I could see him going into Marquette and, taking out Shaka Smart and then Marquette.
Yeah, I mean, Marquette they haven't been super impressive. I mean, they're a solid team, but St. John's is up there like a title contender, you know. If they're
right.
really, we'll get to see if they really are or not. I feel like if they're really a contender, they're going to win this game. And if they're
Yeah, I
not,
think Marquette, they had a better team last year and they still kind of fell short. So I really haven't been too impressed with them either. But they're ranked number 20. They do have 22 wins, 13-6 in the Big East. But yeah, I don't really have a play in this game. But if I had to pick one, I would probably go with St. John's.
yeah, I would too.
All right. By the way, we do have a couple decent games going on now. We got New Mexico playing. Boise State is also playing. So some Mountain West
Mountain West.
Illinois.
That's your wheelhouse.
Yeah. I haven't watched as much as I usually do on the Mountain West, but maybe that's because I was so into them last year. I watched too much of them last year, and like I
Fell in love.
I gave them too many credit. But like they had like 6 or 7 teams that made the tournament, and like one team won a first round matchup, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I do like New Mexico a little bit. But anyway, Illinois Purdue played. Braden Smith, man. I mean, Purdue did lose that game, but he's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's really good.
He is. If you guys haven't seen him, he's just like he really is a general out there, and he's just like such a really good point guard. So
they're really tough to beat at home. They're a different team when they play at home.
Yeah. I mean, Purdue obviously had Zach Edey last year. They lost in the finals last year, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was like the cheat code, you know. I mean,
he was.
Nobody could do anything with him, and like Braden Smith's a great player. You give him an easy target like Zach Edey. I mean,
do you think Purdue could make like with Braden Smith? Do you think they could make like an Elite Eight, maybe run?
I feel like if they got to play at home, they could make the Elite Eight. But
yeah, the road playing on the road is a different story.
I'd be kind of surprised if they went that far. I mean, Sweet 16 not out of the question, but
yeah,
if they made the Elite Eight, I would be surprised for sure.
Yeah, so Sweet 16. Yeah, Braden Smith though. Yeah, I mean he's like 3rd or 4th in the MVP race. He's not really in the mix. Obviously, it's between Broome and so it's not going to happen. But he's to his credit, he's really, really impressive. All right, next game here on Saturday, docket again at noon, Vanderbilt, Georgia. And this is a good matchup in the SEC. Vanderbilt is a pretty good team this year. They've kind of been, terrible the past couple seasons, but nice win against Texas A&M on the road, 86-84. Then they beat Missouri, but then they lose to Arkansas at home. But then only lost by 5 to Tennessee on the road. Kentucky killed them on the road, lost by 9 to Florida. And then Georgia, they're playing good ball right now. Beat Florida at home, then went on the road and beat Texas and South Carolina. So what do you see between these two games? Georgia kind of, I guess they're in that conference. They're going to be in the tournament with 19 wins. What do you think about these two teams?
I think they're a very under the radar team, Georgia. I could see them winning some games. The right draw, they could make a decent run at it. They've got a lot of talent, and Vanderbilt's been very up and down at times. For a long time, they were really good at home, just like Purdue kind of. But then they, like you said, got a couple road wins recently. I don't really trust Vanderbilt still. I think Georgia wins this game. I would take Georgia for sure.
Yeah, Georgia's giving 5.5. So would you give that?
Yeah, I like Georgia.
Okay.
I like them to win comfortably in this game. And I if you're looking to take a sleeper team in the tournament too, I wouldn't hate taking them because they might come in at an 11 seed or something and be very dangerous because that conference brutal. If you put them in another conference, they'd be a lot higher.
Yeah. And Georgia really hasn't done much in the tournament of late either. I mean, I can't remember the last time Georgia's made a deep run into the tournament. Vanderbilt too.
Barely been in it.
Yeah. Vanderbilt too. Like again, I talked about this in the last show. The last time they went to the Elite Eight, I think was when they played Georgetown. The Elite Eight was like 2006 or something like that.
Yeah.
Last time
these teams haven't been in the tournament very much over the years.
But one thing
they got some pros though. Georgia has some pros on that team. I love their point guard Silas Demery and Asa Noel is a guy that is on all the mock drafts. You see him as a first rounder.
So you like Georgia more as a team than Vanderbilt?
I do.
Okay. The thing that stuck out to me in this game, the total is 149.5. I think this game is going over. They played Florida 80-83. Missouri was 87-74. Against Mississippi State, it was 76-65. And then Vanderbilt on the road, 86-84 against Texas A&M, 81-76 against Tennessee, 86-75 against Florida. So, a lot of totals over that 149. I think this is a good play here on the over. So I'm going to hit that.
The SEC is loaded with offensive talent. I mean, all those teams can score. So the over is probably a good play in most SEC games.
Yeah, and then Josh likes Georgia to kind of cover that spread as well. So I guess you want to make that official play with Georgia on that one?
I do like Georgia. I actually have already made that play.
All right. Nice.
Actually, I think I got it at 4.5, but I'd still take it at 5.5.
All right, let me jot that down real quick so we can so we can keep record here and see what our record is for next week. This is our first official week picking against the spread. Last week we were kind of guessing and kind of giving vibes, but now that we're going a day later, we got the spread. So Josh got Georgia minus let's just say 5, and then I got the over 149 in that game. All right. And then
BYU and Florida made us look good over the last week. They both some big wins.
Man, BYU, they definitely are pretty impressed. They've had some good wins. We'll talk about that
at Iowa State. That's tough.
Yeah,
that's a tough place to play.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a good win, and they had their point guard back too. Iowa State.
Yeah, they had everybody.
Gilbert, yeah, and Florida, man, wow, they look really good.
They might look like the favorites. I'm not
sure. This kind of reminds me of the team. I don't know if it's as good, obviously, when they had Corey Brewer and Al Horford, but they kind of have like that guards and all those bigs inside, Noah, Brewer, and then Horford, like they had that good combination of the guards and the inside play. Like those three big guys are just aggressive and they're all kind of crafty, and it's just.
And they've now won at Auburn and at Alabama. Which is, that's tough.
Yeah, no, Florida is definitely. I got to see what the odds on have. Maybe if they've shifted. I think they were like.
I'm sure they have a lot.
4th or 5th to win the national title. Maybe that's bumped up now. A little bit.
I'm sure it is now. I got them early in the year at 40-1. That's one of my. I'll be sweating that one pretty good.
All right, next game here, Kentucky versus Missouri, and. Let's see. The total is 169.5. Kentucky is getting 5.5 in this game. Looks like Jackson Robinson is going to continue to be out, possibly.
He's out for the year, I think.
Oh, he's out for the year now?
I think they called him out for the season, which is devastating.
Because he came back, right? And then he got hurt again?
Yeah, he came back and didn't play very long and went back out. And I guess his wrist is not okay.
Jeez.
And then Kirk. That's a huge blow for them. I mean, that's massive.
Is he like is he going to be is he coming out this year, or is he going to stay another year?
I'm not even sure if he can stay another year. He's been around for a while, but
all right. So do you think he's a pro or no?
I think he is an NBA prospect, and that's devastating to lose him. I mean, they can't afford that, and Lamont Butler's injured too, and
Lamont.
I mean, he came back, but his shoulder's really
his shoulder is messed up.
He's wearing that huge brace on it. Like, unfortunately, that's going to ruin their season. I mean, I think they were a serious threat to like make a run when fully healthy, but take away their 2 best point guards, and that's tough.
And then Kirk Krissa, the guard from Arizona, he's been out since December 7th. I don't know if he's going to make it back either.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about him. So they're in trouble. And Missouri's been really good at home too. So I'd pick Missouri just because Kentucky's in shambles. I mean, they're still talented enough to where they're going to win some games. And Otega Oweh is just a super competitor out there who obviously hates losing, and
Yeah.
Seems to be pretty much stronger than everybody on the floor every time he plays. So he's been dominant at times, but he's got his work cut out for him.
Yeah, we talked about him last week out of Newark, New Jersey. But yeah, Kentucky, lost by 14 to Mississippi. They lost by 4 on the road to Texas. Alabama beat them by 13, just a 1-point win at Oklahoma. And then Missouri, beat South Carolina by 30 in their last home game. They beat Alabama by 12. They destroyed Oklahoma. They did lose to Texas A&M February 8th. But yeah, I'm with you. I like Missouri in this game. And the spread is you can get 4.5 on DraftKings. So
yep, that's what I got too.
All right, yeah, let's we're both in agreement with this one. Missouri minus 4.5 against Kentucky. And I think this is a good spot for Missouri because they're coming off 2 road losses to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. So they're going to be ultra focused to get a win here. And yeah, I think Kentucky's a good team, but yeah, I like what Missouri's doing, especially at home, like you mentioned. So I think they take care of business and get the win.
Yeah, losing those point guards really messed up Kentucky's offense. It's very disjointed now, and it's tough for them. And Missouri, their crowd's been great this year. They play kind of a pressuring defense, which gets chaotic when the crowd's going crazy, and they've been really tough to deal with at home. So I definitely like them.
Okay, real quick, Penn State against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's giving 11.5 in this game. Wisconsin, their last few home games, they destroyed Washington. They lost to Illinois. They lost to Oregon by 4. That game, they were up. I think they were up like 20 in that game, and they blew a lead because I did bet on Wisconsin. Then they destroyed Illinois at home. They beat Indiana by 12. So Penn State, 15-15. Obviously, they could possibly get into the tournament if they have like a miracle run. But, they lost it. They lost to Indiana by 5. They beat Minnesota by 9. They got destroyed by USC on the road and UCLA. So I like Wisconsin here, minus the 11.5. What do you think?
Penn State's been one of the most disappointing teams for me this season. I feel when I look at their roster and I see them out there, they're big, they've got size, speed. I thought they were going to have a chance to have a good year, and they started out all right. And then I remember a couple games that they lost that were really close, and it seemed to just break their spirit. And they went on a streak where they were just losing every game, and it's tough. Wisconsin's not a team that usually blows people out of the water, and I see a lot of talent on that Penn State team, but they haven't been very good. And I would lay off that. I wouldn't bet it, but you could make an argument either way, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I love Tanjay from Wisconsin. He's a beast.
Yeah, they lost Hepburn and they lost Storr, and they're still a pretty damn good team.
Yeah. That Tanjay guy, if they were a little bit better, I would have put him in the conversation for Player of the Year too, because he's had a couple 40-point games. He just looks bigger and stronger than everybody else. He's a huge point guard who can just get to the basket, and he's been pretty dominant.
I got to send you this video. I was watching Hepburn. The announcer's like, Hepburn hits 5 in a row. Did I send you that? And he's like,
no.
Then he hits 6 in a row. And the crowd's going crazy. And they show this one kid who's got this crazy face. I'll show you. It's pretty funny.
He plays for Louisville now.
Yeah, Louisville. Yeah. That was crazy. It's crazy now, how these guys just change teams. Just
the transfer portal's nuts.
It makes it even harder now to track everything. So I'm going to make that official play. Wisconsin minus 11.5. Also, you got Iowa State versus Kansas State. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that game. I kind of looked at it and really didn't have it one way or the other. Kansas State seems like they have some good wins this year.
And they're at home. I think they're underdog by 7 points, right?
Yeah.
I'd probably lay off that one too.
7.5. Yeah, I didn't really have a good vibe on that game. Iowa State, I do expect them to bounce back. But I just didn't really I didn't see a play there.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas State's solid at home. I don't know. I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want any piece of that one.
Iowa State, fully healthy. Do you like them? How far do you think they go?
I do. I think they're a tough team. They went pretty deep last year, at least Sweet 16, maybe even. Yeah, it was probably Sweet 16. I think they lost a close game to Illinois. And, I mean, they've got most of those guys back from that team. So, they've had a lot of struggles with injuries so far this year, but I could see they're getting healthy at the right time, and with the right draw, they could make a run again. I could see them as far as an Elite Eight in the right circumstances, I mean, I think Sweet 16 is probably more likely. But.
Okay. All right, next game here. I like Tennessee minus 15.5. Now, it's kind of a big spread for Tennessee. They're a defensive team, but they did beat Florida by 20, 64-44 way back in the beginning of the month. They beat Missouri by 4. They beat Vanderbilt by 5. All really good teams, much better than South Carolina, who's 12-18. And they did beat Alabama most recently by 3, but they did just lose on the road against Mississippi. So I think they're going to be fired up to come back home, get back in the winning column. And then South Carolina, they got destroyed by Missouri by 30 on the road. They lost by 14 to LSU. Florida kicked their ass. Kentucky kicked their ass. And they lost to Georgia by 11. So, Tennessee's not the type of team. It's kind of like Virginia. Like, you don't like taking big spreads with them. But I think they get it done here, minus the 15. Let's see if
South Carolina's had a terrible year.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel bad for them in this conference. I mean, they're not as bad as that record looks, but it's just brutal. You get no breaks in the SEC. Every night you're playing one of the better teams in the country, and they've taken a lot of beatings. And I'm sure they're going to lose this one. Will it be more than 15? Probably be fairly close.
Yeah, it's gonna be close. I'm gonna I think Tennessee just gets like a blowout win here, but yeah, it could be close. It could be
coming off a loss, that's probably a good time for it.
Yeah, and I like the fact that South Carolina has just been destroyed on the road by several different teams,
and they don't have hardly anything to play for. So,
right.
South Carolina's season's over, and they've got to just be hoping it's going to end soon.
Yeah. Getting ready for spring break.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Tennessee is trying to help up that ranking. They've got everything to play for.
Yeah.
And they play as hard as anybody. That's the one thing I really love about Tennessee is they play so hard on both ends, and your effort's never going to be a question.
Do you think?
I think they do have more offense this season than they have in the last few. But
even with Connect last year, you think?
Well, maybe not since him. He was amazing, but. Yeah. I mean, overall, they had one better player last year, but I think they've got more talent surrounding the rest of the team this year.
Yeah. But Rick Barnes, man, like I think he's made one Final Four with Texas, maybe? That was basically it.
He's a really solid coach. He's had a very good career for someone who's never really won anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of coaches like that, that just can't get over the hump of you getting that national championship. So we'll see if that changes this year. All right, Louisville. I kind of like what I saw. Again, I was watching Hepburn light it up. They're playing Stanford. I didn't see Stanford's kind of tricky. They're 19-11, so not bad. The spread is 11.5. Total's 148.5. Anything here?
What was the spread again?
11.5 on Louisville.
Yeah, it's at Louisville. Yeah, I mean, probably lean towards Louisville. I wouldn't be super thrilled about taking it, but, I mean, Stanford hasn't been great. They do have a pro inside the Raynal, Maxime Raynal or something. He's like 7-footer. He likes to shoot a little too many threes for my liking, but he's put up massive numbers all year. But Louisville's playing much better, and, at home I would expect them to bring it. They need the win, keep pace with Clemson up there, fighting for that 2 seed.
Yeah. So, 24-6 for Louisville. So good year for them for sure.
Yeah, and I would expect them to handle that game, but Stanford hasn't really impressed me too much other than that one guy. And,
yeah, Hepburn, 16 points a game. The Terrence Edwards Jr. from James Madison averaging 15. Yeah, I kind of like like what I saw to them.
Hadley, they've got a bunch of really solid players who play well together. I mean, they don't have any spectacular players. Everyone's just like pretty good. So, but they play really well together, and I definitely expect them to win this one fairly easily.
Okay. All right, let's talk about mid-major here. Drake versus Belmont in the Missouri Valley semifinals. I did watch Drake once. They play that slow pace. I don't know. They got like
Yeah.
what, at least 4 or 5 white guys in the court. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do in the tournament. I don't really Drake. I don't think Drake's ever really done good in the tournament. Like maybe they have like I don't know if they've ever been to a Sweet 16. Maybe once. They always seem to get knocked out in the first or second round. The other Missouri Valley teams seem to have more success. But what do you think about Drake?
I really like their point guard, Bennett Sturts. I think I've only seen them play maybe twice this year, and I haven't seen them play much recently. But, I mean, they've been winning most every game they're playing. I think they're probably going to be playing Bradley for the championship, so I would expect them to beat Belmont. But then again, I haven't seen Belmont a whole lot. I do like this guy, Jonathan Pierre, for Belmont. He's big, and he's 6'9". Like, they could give him some problems. These conferences like that, like the tournament means everything to these teams, and no one's just amazing and way better than everybody else. So sometimes that one player who gets hot at the right time can make a huge difference. So, what's the spread in this game?
I don't see it yet. Probably because there was games I don't see anything yet. So.
Yeah.
Belmont, though, they've always been a good team. 22-10. Weren't they in the Big South with like Davidson?
Yeah. They've changed around these conferences so much. It's so hard to keep track of all this stuff.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I do the best I can. I mean, but yeah, like Belmont, they never really had a lot of success in the tournament either. Like they always seem to get knocked out in the first or second round. But they made the tournament a lot, so they're a good program.
They usually just didn't quite have the size or athleticism to really do too much. They might have won a couple games on some great 3-point shooting. But this Pierre kid they have he's big and athletic. And a lot of these conferences like this don't have a whole lot of big athletic talented players. So if you're a team that has one of them, you've got a puncher's chance here against anyone in your league.
Yeah, but the Missouri Valley, again, that's a great conference. So we're going to get the final on Sunday. So I think Sunday, or do we have to wait? Do they extend it?
I think they'll probably play Sunday.
Because sometimes
semis tomorrow.
Some of these conference tournaments, they
maybe Monday
semi, and then they wait like a week to play the finals. Sometimes, let me see real quick.
They might do it on Monday or something. But I expected Bradley and Drake to play for this title, but
yeah, it's not going to be Sunday. We got the Summit League Championship on final on Sunday, but that's the only one I see. So it may happen it may happen
Monday.
Not even Monday. It might happen the following weekend. That's how they do it sometimes. It's weird. Monday there's a bunch of finals, but no, I'm telling you, they wait in the Missouri Valley. I think they wait to the following weekend. So, or maybe some day next week. All right, let's keep it moving here. Yale Brown. We talked about Yale. Obviously, the Ivy League is another conference that always causes trouble in the tournament. So that's something to watch out for. They've expanded. What does the Ivy League do now? They take 4 teams in their tournament.
Yeah, I think they just play a semifinal.
Because they used to not have a conference tournament. It was just whoever won the regular season. It was like the only conference that did that. And now it's top 4 that make it.
They always got to be different.
The
Ivy League.
Better. Yeah.
They're so much better than everyone.
Well, last year Yale made that upset against Auburn. The Skull and Bones Society was they were doing some crazy shit to get.
Yeah, there might have been the fix. The fix might have been in on that one.
Yeah, definitely.
They got a guy named Bez Imbing though. Been playing really well. He's very athletic, quick. Been putting up triple doubles with regularity. I mean, that's the kind of guy you need to, pull off one of those wins in the tournament. So they seem to always do it. Like you said,
Oh, they always do it.
They're either win or they're real close. And
it's so
I
weird.
wouldn't
Like,
bet against them. They did just finally lose in their conference, I think.
It's weird because you watch them play in their conference and like they look okay. And then they get into the NCAA tournament and like all of a sudden there's one guy that just goes off for like 24 points. And
yeah, exactly. It seems like there's always one team like that where I just watched them play their conference tournament. They look terrible. And they get in there and play Arizona and look like some professionals out there. Like,
it's just, I guess it's
just the same team.
It's just the confidence factor. I guess the change of style. They're not intimidated. And then these other teams just get tight, and they let these teams stick around, and then the crowd backs them, and then freaking that's when we get the upset. All right, biggest game of the day, I guess, Alabama, Auburn. Definitely. Well, there's one other big game we're going to get into, but this game, better teams involved. Well, two teams involved. So about 2:30, Auburn, Alabama. They played once this year already, February 15th. Auburn won 94-85. Auburn's giving 7.5 at home. The total is 178.5. Who do you like in this game? I think I'm leaning Alabama here.
Yeah, I thought that spread was a little big, especially Auburn. They've been great all year, but they're not playing their best at this moment. And they missed Denver Jones last game. I'm not sure if he's going to be back or not.
Sounds like he's fine. I don't see any injury reports for Auburn right now.
But yeah, it's not a good time to not be looking your best. I feel like they've been looking really great all year. They're still obviously very good, even when they're not looking that good. But, Alabama, I feel like, needs the win more. And these teams not that far apart.
Yeah, Mark Sears is like mini Brunson. He's like another Brunson style player, sure. Right?
Yeah, and these are both Final Four caliber teams. I would have thought the spread would have been a little bit closer. But Auburn's tough at home. I'm sure they'll have a crazy crowd. But I think Broom's still a little banged up. That something seems not right with him. Doesn't seem to be moving all that well.
Yeah, I've been watching the past couple games, and he really hasn't been that great.
He's had a couple. He's gotten banged up a couple times. Like I think he sat out maybe one game, and he's playing through something, and it's definitely hampering him a little bit.
Meanwhile, Cooper Flagg's like jumping all over the gym and shit.
Scary.
He's scary. So yeah, he's got that player of the year locked up. I think he's like minus 200. Maybe it's even more now. We checked last week; it was minus 200. I'll check it again. But yeah, Auburn did lose to Texas. They did lose to Texas A&M on the road, so they're going to be focused. Obviously, Bama just lost to Florida and Tennessee, so they've lost 2 straight. So they'll be focused. I
like Alabama.
Yeah, I like Alabama plus.
And I think they've got a shot to win this game. All right, so if they're getting 7.5, 8 points, you got to take that.
Money line is plus 260, so bet 100, win 260.
I'd probably take the points, but I wouldn't hate the money line bet.
Yeah, well, they're basically saying Auburn. You say 4 to 6 points for the home court, and then they're saying Auburn's like a point or two better than Bama, basically. That's basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the year they have definitely been better, but Bama, been saying it from the beginning of the year, Bama, I think, has the most talented roster, and they just haven't been able to put it together. Plus, a lot of their talent is young. They've got some freshmen, and I think they've had a hard time deciding who they need to be playing, and I think they're still trying to figure out what their best lineups are, and then they need to get that figured out quick because time's running out. And I think they have the talent to do it, but they haven't. Their defense has not been at the same level as Auburn or Duke, and their offense hasn't been the same level as Florida. So I'd put Alabama as probably the 4th favorite now to win the championship. But I think they definitely have a chance. And like you said, Mark Sears is a little mini Brunson, and he's really dangerous in the tournament. He's been so clutch.
Yeah, he's like kind of like similar to Brunson. Like, what is this? His fifth year, and that's what Brunson did. He played all 4 years at Villanova,
Yep.
And he just kept getting better and better and better, Brunson. And you could maybe, I don't know what Sears' size is compared to Brunson, but they feel like
It's
they're the
got to be
same.
close. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of like the
I
same
feel like
build.
Brunson might be a little bit bigger, but yeah, they're very similar. And I'm sure Mark Sears will go way too low in the draft, just like Brunson did.
Sears is 6'1", 190, and Brunson is 6'2". I don't have the weight here, but he's basically an inch taller. So yeah, they're very similar.
Yeah. And they're both, not super athletes in terms of jumping ability. So they're way below the rim players, but
Yeah,
they're very, very effective.
very crafty. Brunson did turn his ankle last night against the
I
Lakers.
saw that. Right? That was a great game.
That was a great game.
He was unbelievable in that game too. I mean,
oh yeah,
impossible
Luka.
to guard. Impossible.
Yeah,
Got a shot at it though.
Lakers. What, they won 7 straight now with Luka and
I don't know how they got Luka. There's some shady stuff going on there.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
We're just imploding. Immediately, Anthony Davis gets hurt and Kyrie
gets hurt. Yeah, it's rough.
Blowing it up over there. It's horrible.
All right, so consensus pick on Bama here plus the 7.5. All right, I like it. All right, next game. Just going back here. Let's see what we got. Maryland, Northwestern. I looked at that game. Maryland's a pretty good team. I know you like some of their talent, right?
I really like their talent. Their defense is very questionable, which is probably going to hold them back from making too good of a run. But offensively, I think they're very talented. I love Derek Queen. I think they need to play through him a lot more. He can handle the ball and he can pass. And sometimes they forget about him and the guards get a little too dribble and shot happy out there. But like they can score from every position. Lost my camera. But
That's right.
It made it for a while.
Yeah, no, it was doing great. So we lost Josh on the audio. But yeah, I was looking at the Maryland game. I didn't really, he'll be back in a minute. I didn't really find any team that I liked there. I was just saying I didn't really like anybody in that game, but yeah, I kind of like Maryland. I looked at their schedule. They're ranked 13th in the country, 23-7 on the year, 16-2 at home. Northwestern doesn't have a bad team. They're kind of gritty.
They're really tough at home. They're always difficult to beat.
They're always tough at home. Yeah.
Like Maryland, I feel like Maryland should cover that, but I have a hard time trusting Maryland. Like they've let me down too many times. But I really like their guards can score. Their bigs are good offensively and defensively. Especially, I mean, one of them's good defensively, more defense. One's more offense, but they both can do either one. And I really like this team. I'm gonna be very tempted to pick them to go deep in the tournament, but I'm scared. Okay. I'm scared that their defense is gonna let me down.
It's been a while for Maryland, right? Like they haven't made a deep run in a while either.
Yeah,
ever since Gary Williams and Juan Dixon, way back when.
They won the championship with those guys.
Right? That's right. They did. Yeah. What was that? 2001, I think that was.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But yeah,
super talented.
Yeah, they haven't done much of late. All right, next game as we wait for Josh to kick back in. I got to throw him. We got to get him a new camera, but he'll get back. Indiana against Ohio State. Was looking at this game. Big Ten. Indiana giving 2.5 to Ohio State, over under 147.5. Indiana last couple home games, 83-78 against Penn State, 73-58 against Purdue, and then lost by 4 to UCLA, lost by 3 to Michigan, and lost by 1 to Maryland. But Ohio State on the road, they lost to UCLA by 8. They won at USC by 5. They lost to Nebraska by 8, and then lost to Illinois by 9. So I like Indiana in this game, minus 2.5. They're coming off the road loss to Oregon and Washington. So a trip out west, but it's like 4 days later, they're back. They're ready to go. I'm sure they got everything done that they needed to do. It's not like it's the next day or 2 days later, like in the NBA. We're 4 days out here. Tomorrow is March 8th. Their last game was March 4th. So I think they'll be fine and take care of business in this game. Did you hear what I was saying?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Indiana's been a confusing team. They've got a lot of talent on that roster, and they just haven't been able to put it together. But they have had some good wins. I mean, I think they won at Michigan State at one point, but they've got some confusing losses. They've beaten Purdue, they've beaten Michigan State, but then
Yeah, they did win at Michigan State. You're right. Then they lost to Michigan at home and lost to UCLA by 4.
Yeah, very tough team to trust, but they've got a great home crowd most of the time. Hopefully they haven't given up on the team yet this year, but that's usually a very difficult place to play. And Ohio State's they've been just as inconsistent as well.
Yeah, and Indiana is right on the cusp. 18-12, so they're fighting to get into the tournament for sure. I'm looking at Lenardi's first 4 out. I don't see them in the first 4 in, last 4. Actually, yeah, they're in the last 4 in Indiana, according to Lenardi. So this is a huge game for them against Ohio State, who's close in their own right. So
they're very similar teams. I feel like they've both been very inconsistent. They both have a lot of talent, and they just have not, for whatever reason, been able to put it together. I mean, I would be tempted to take Indiana at home just because I think they're the more talented team overall, but they just haven't put it all together. So we'll see if they can do it.
All right, kind of rapid fire here. Xavier -11 against Providence, and SMU giving 3.5 to Florida State on the road. You like either one of those?
SMU, is Boopy Miller back? That's what I need to know.
Let's see.
Boopy Miller, I love him.
Yeah, looks like he's good. I don't see any injuries here.
Is he? He hasn't been playing. He hasn't been playing for a while, but
let me see.
With him, I feel like they're a much better team.
The only guy I see out for them is
he did play last game.
Holmes, yeah.
Okay. And what was that spread again? It's at Florida State. Florida State's another team that just has so much talent, so much size, athleticism, but they're just not playing well. Their big guy got hurt against Carolina. I'm guessing he's probably not back yet. So
he's questionable. He's questionable with an ankle, yeah.
Yeah, just don't trust them at all. But, they're at home. I'd probably lay off that one. What was the first game you said?
Xavier against Providence.
Xavier. I really like how Xavier's been playing lately. They're tough. They're going to be a difficult team. I would take them. Providence has had a horrible year. I do like Xavier.
Xavier also last 4 in, according to Lenardi. So, again, big game for them. So, yeah, maybe lean Xavier there. I looked at it briefly. Actually, I didn't really give a good look at it. So, yeah, maybe I'll look at it tomorrow, but I'm not going to make it official here.
Yeah, Providence has been pretty bad and not much to play for, while Xavier needs some convincing wins here.
Yeah, they are playing much better of late, getting some good wins in the Big East. All right, couple more here. Texas A&M giving 6.5 to LSU. Anything on that one?
LSU has been terrible all year. I'd feel comfortable with Texas A&M. Although they did just have that huge win against Auburn. Yeah. Hopefully they won't have a little letdown. But LSU has not been very good, so they should be able to take care of business there.
Okay, another big game. 2 powerhouses: Arizona, Kansas. Kansas giving 3 to Arizona. I looked at these. It's 2 teams I don't trust. Kansas, though, I feel like, I don't know, Hunter Dickinson and DeJuan Harris, man. I feel like those 2 guys are just limited. Like, they're holding this team back. Like, Bill Self's got to do something and get some new – he's held on to these guys for too damn long. So,
yeah, I agree. Both these teams are not playing that great right now. I feel like 2 powerhouse programs that are kind of average right now. Both of them not too impressive. I think Arizona has the ability to look great, and it usually goes how Caleb Love goes. If he's looking like a superstar, scoring 30 points and everything's working, then they look pretty good. But he's playing like a bonehead and missing all his shots, and they can easily be beat by a lot of people. And Kansas, it's weird to see Kansas struggle like this. They've had a hard time.
Yeah, it
But
is weird.
is it at Kansas?
Yeah, it's at Kansas. They're giving 3.5 to Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a hard place to play. Kansas is one of the best home court advantages in the country. It's hard not to like Kansas, but they've just had such a hard time. Like you said, hard to trust.
They
Hard to
just
trust
lost.
either
They
way.
just lost to Texas Tech by 5 at home.
And that's a good
And-
team. I mean, Texas Tech's definitely better than both of these teams, I think.
Okay. Yeah, KJ Adams, he is a freaking bull though. That guy.
Yeah, he is. If he had a jump shot, he'd be a surefire NBA guy, but he can't make a jumper, so that's tough.
He definitely could find a position in the NFL probably.
Yeah. I think he can find a position in the NBA to play some spot minutes here or there. He's a great defender. If he can ever learn how to make that, mid-range jumper, there's a role for him.
Is he a senior now or is he a junior?
He's got to be. He's been around forever too.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Kansas' whole team has been around forever. I feel like.
Yeah, it's close.
These guys.
But yeah, I don't trust either one of these teams, so I didn't have a play on this one. Do you have a play on this game?
I mean, I'd take Kansas if I had to take somebody, but yeah, like you said, I don't trust either one of them. I think they're both capable of playing well, and they're both capable of playing like crap. So it's hard to know which team's going to show up. I tend to like Kansas at home. I don't think there's a lot of teams that can beat them at home. So, Houston did, Texas Tech did, but those are good teams. I mean, those are Sweet 16 teams at least. So yeah, I'd probably take Kansas, but I wouldn't feel great about it.
All right, Creighton at home against Butler, giving 10.5. Do you like anything there?
I mean, I definitely like Creighton to win. Haven't seen too much Butler this year. They haven't really made themselves a real factor. So
they seem like they play kind of tough. I mean, they lost to Villanova by 10. They lost to Xavier by 13 on the road.
Yeah, I think they've got some tough guards. They just don't have enough size. And Kalkbrenner really punishes people that don't have size. So he's one of the best big guys at just dominating. When he's the biggest guy in there, he's a problem. And
yeah, he's good. He's legit.
He's going to be a big problem for them. I really like Creighton's supporting cast. I think they're a good team, and I think they're a team that could make a run if they get the right draw. But
yeah, I agree. They're always dangerous.
So I certainly wouldn't take Butler.
Clemson's. I gotta really watch Clemson. They got an easy game against Virginia Tech. They're giving 17.5.
The ACC is so down this year. I feel like half the league is like an easy win. I haven't seen it like this ever, where the majority of the league is not very good. I feel like there's maybe 4. I'll give Carolina into the upper echelon now. They're finally playing pretty well. I'd say there's 4 good teams in that league, and SMU and Wake are kind of questionable, and then everyone else is pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's sad for the ACC, really, to see this many teams just being very bad. Like where it's probably an easy win going to more than
the
half
ACC
the
was the best conference for a while.
Yeah.
Then it was like the Big 12, kind of snuck in there. But the ACC, I mean, they had a lot of powerhouse teams for sure. And it's definitely been down the past couple seasons. Florida
dominant, and now the SEC is dominant.
Yeah, that's strange. And the SEC was always like one of the worst of the power conferences.
The athletic director must be doing a great job of recruiting the right teams to join his conference in this weird new environment we have where everybody's switching leagues. And SEC has done well, and everyone else is kind of losing, it seems.
All right, Florida versus Mississippi. Florida is giving 11 here. Florida, again, we talked about them. They look really, really freaking good. They got the bigs, they got the guards. They definitely could cut down the nets. They are still, let's see how recent this is. I'm looking at the odds here. March 3rd, so it's a few days old. But plus 850. They're right behind Houston, who's plus 800. Auburn is plus 350. Duke is plus 350. But ahead of Alabama, ahead of Tennessee, ahead of Iowa State, Michigan State, St. John's. So giving 11 here to Ole Miss. Ole Miss on the road against Auburn got destroyed by, 30. Vanderbilt, they lost by 5. They beat South Carolina by 4, beat LSU by 2. And then Florida at home beat Oklahoma by 18, beat South Carolina by 21, beat Vanderbilt by 11, beat Texas A&M by 19. So I like Florida to cover the spread here against Mississippi. I think Florida keeps it rolling. What do you think?
I agree. And Florida, like I said, I think they're as big a favorite as anybody to win the championship right now. They're right there on the same level of any of those other teams. Their offense to me looks probably the best, right there with Duke. I think Duke and Florida, their offense is just seamless. They move it around really well. Everybody can score, and they're deep. Those two teams, it just looks easy. Everybody else is like kind of disjointed, not free flowing. Like Florida's just free flowing. Everybody's moving, cutting, wide open constantly. Like they look great.
I agree. And then Clayton 17, Elijah Martin, the Florida Atlantic transfer, he averages 14. Will Richard 13, Condon 11, Thomas Hall, big guy 9. That kid Aberdeen's pretty good. He averages 8. So yeah, they're deep.
Yeah.
They got bigs. They got the team. They got the bigs and they got the guards. And I like when you have that kind of system. And again, it reminds me of those old Florida teams that went back to back with Noah and Brewer.
And Will Richard too has been playing phenomenal. Like they look like their whole lineup is full of pros. And I think all those guys will be in the NBA.
And who was that guard? It was Brewer, Noah, Horford, and then they had another guard too on Florida. I'm trying to think. He was smaller than Brewer. I'm trying to think of what his name was, but he was good too.
Yeah, they were tough. They won back-to-back, right?
Yeah, back-to-back, yeah. But yeah, so I like Florida, and I like the over too, 157.5. Not crazy, but I do like it at home. Again, 89-70 against Texas A&M, 88-67 against South Carolina, 86-75 against Vanderbilt. Mississippi on the road, 106. They lit up to Auburn. They lit up 77 to Vanderbilt. They lit up, so yeah, I like that over too. So Florida minus 11. If you can catch that, or 11.5. Oh yeah, you can get 11 actually on Caesars. You can get it on DK. You get it on Bet365, and then the over 156.5 on FanDuel. So I like the over there as well.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, their offense looks unstoppable.
Yeah, I agree. I agree though. Like watching Duke and Florida, I agree with you. Like they seem like the two most most potent, free flowing offenses for sure.
And I really give Florida the edge because of their big guys. Like they've got big guys who can handle the ball, they can pass, they're comfortable in like every situation. And Duke, they've got Malawatch, the freshman, who he's huge, he's athletic, but like he doesn't want to dribble or shoot. He doesn't really do much besides catch alley-oops and rebound and defend the rim, which is all they really need him to do. But when your big guys can handle the ball and pass and like get out of a trap, do things like that just opens up your offense so much. And Florida, it just looks easy for Florida right now. And I think Condon's going to be a really good pro. I think Thomas Hawk's going to Hawk. I don't know how you say his name. Haugh. I'm not sure how he pronounces that, but he's going to be a pro. I think I'm sure he'll be an underrated guy in the draft, and I can see him as a guy who's so versatile, plays great defense, does everything well. He'll be a really good NBA player.
All right. Well, speaking of Duke, North Carolina, the biggest rivalry, I guess, in college basketball, and Duke back February 1st went 87-70 at Cameron. North Carolina won the last matchup last year at home, 93-84, and they swept the series last year. So can North Carolina, who's been playing much better of late, they started out terrible. I know you were way down on them, but then ever since they lost to Duke, they kind of turned it around. They beat Pitt. They lost to Clemson on the road, but then they beat Syracuse, they beat NC State, they beat Virginia, beat Florida State, beat Miami, beat Virginia Tech, all kind of shitty teams, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah, the
But,
ACC, there's a lot of
they,
opportunities to play some bad teams.
but they are dominating. They are dominating these games. So
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
agree.
Have you kind of followed these games closely? Are they looking good in doing it?
Yeah, we've looked very good. There's a few concerns, but one we were horrible against Duke the first time. Like that was basically a 40-point game. The score said 17, but Carolina was down 30 in the first half. It was over instantly. But we are a different team right now, playing much better. And Jalen Withers getting more playing time has been huge. He's definitely our best big guy, the most talented size we have, but we're too small. And Duke, like, it's hard to see Carolina winning. I mean, crazy things happen in this series, but Duke is really good. They're huge, and we just don't have the size. I mean, we've been playing great and we've been dominating teams that we should beat, but they're not very good. The Florida States and Miamis and Virginia Tech, these are bad teams. And to our credit, we have dominated them. We've looked good doing it, but
Yeah,
Duke's different, and that defense they're playing is brutal. And with that size, it's going to be really tough because we're still undersized. We're still playing, we're used to having those 7-footers in there, and we don't have it this year. And I want to believe that we can win this game. I think we could keep it close potentially, but
10.5 is the spread. Do you think Carolina covers that, or do you think Duke just destroys?
I'd still take Duke if I had to bet, but I won't be betting it because I don't want to bet against my team. But I wouldn't be able to bet against Duke. I don't believe in Carolina enough.
Yeah,
I just think they're too small. I think they're playing very well, but Duke's great. Duke's got the best team they've had in a long time, and we don't have an answer for Cooper Flagg. We don't have an answer for even Malawach inside. He's 7 feet tall. Like, he's going to have a ton of easy dunks because we just don't have anyone who can defend him. Don't have anyone big enough to battle with him in there or Flagg. So it's going to be a problem to rebounding and just being able. We won't be able to get to the basket as easily. Like, our little guards are good at getting to the basket and scoring, but when you have to finish over a 7-footer, then Cooper Flagg, who's probably the best help side defender I've seen in college basketball, maybe ever, because it just seems like he's everywhere. He's halfway guarding his man and halfway guarding the ball at all times, and he's so good at it. He's just everywhere, and it's hard to see us being able to really do much.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree. If I was going to bet on anybody, it'd be Duke. But I could kind of see, like, Carolina get the crowd and just, like, crazy shit happens and they keep it a close game. So I'll just watch the game and enjoyment. Maybe I'll look at the total, though, 157.5.
Probably be a lot of points. A lot of points. Yeah, I can see everybody scoring a lot. I mean,
Duke on the road, though, they haven't really scored that much. I mean, 83 against Syracuse, 71 against Clemson. They lost in that game. Only 80 against Virginia, 97 against Miami. But they've kind of they've seemed like the last week or so or 2 weeks, they've kind of picked it up a little bit on offense, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and Carolina really has. I mean, we've been shooting it well. We're playing a lot better, and I have at least a tiny bit of hope this time. Like, I had zero hope the first time. This time, a little bit, but I would just hope we can make it a game. If we keep it close and have a respectable game here, because we're on the bubble. Carolina's not used to sitting here on the bubble at tournament time, and it's happening a little bit too often in recent years.
Yeah, right now they're first 4 out, according to Lenardi. So a huge game for them.
We need a good showing, and we need a couple wins in the tournament. So,
yeah, I would say, if you want to bet on it, I guess go Duke. But I would say I like the over, if anything, in this game.
I agree with that. I like that. I'm not much of an over/under guy, but I like the over in this one.
All right, real quick. UCLA -9.5 against USC. Texas Tech -11 at Arizona State. And then Texas -5 at home against Oklahoma. Anything you like there?
A lot of tough games. What was the one at USC? Who's USC playing?
USC is playing UCLA, giving 9.5 at home.
Man, USC is another one of those teams. They've got a lot of talent. They've got a guy, Wesley Yates, who I know is going to be an NBA player, but they're very disorganized. It's, UCLA's, they've been up and down too, though. So there's a lot of teams that are hard to trust out there. Texas Tech, I like them a lot. They seem to be finally getting healthy. So they're playing Arizona State, right?
Yeah, they're in Arizona State. They're giving 11 there.
Yeah. I haven't watched a whole lot of Arizona State because they just haven't been very good. Texas Tech,
Arizona State lost to TCU by 4, to Houston by 15, and to BYU by 10 at home. The last 3 home games.
Yeah, they've got some athleticism too. So, but I do trust Texas Tech as a team. I trust to show up. They're a consistent team. They're not the best team, but they're very consistently good.
Yeah, they lost by 9 to Arizona. They destroyed Oklahoma State. They lost to TCU by 3, and just beat Kansas by 5 on the road for Texas Tech.
Yeah. It's probably haven't seen enough of Arizona State to really want to bet that one, but Texas Tech, I feel like they're getting healthy, and I do trust them. So I wouldn't hate a bet on Texas Tech.
All right, couple more here. Late game in the Big 12, Baylor and Houston, 10 o'clock. Kind of late for Houston and Baylor. Usually they're like 9 o'clock, right? I don't remember Baylor and Houston playing a 10 o'clock game. It's kind of weird. Baylor is getting 4.5 at home. Houston giving 4.5. By the way, I wanted to point out Arizona and Kansas, they haven't played each other since 2010. So 15 years is pretty crazy. So Houston on the road, they beat Texas Tech by 8. They beat Arizona State by 15. They beat Arizona by 4, and they beat Colorado by 10. So nothing truly dominant. They aren't really like blowing teams out because they're playing in a better conference. They're playing in the American Conference all those years. So they're just destroying those teams. So we're not seeing that anymore from Houston, but they're still winning consistently, 26-4. Baylor not as good as they usually are. Just 18-12. So yeah, they're kind of right on the bubble there too. At home, they win by Oak State by 10. They lose to Arizona by 13. They beat West Virginia by 3, beat UCF by 15, and Kansas by 11. 4.5 is the spread. Houston's the favorite. Who do you like?
I mean, it's hard to bet against Houston. They're one of the most consistent teams. They're going to bring it with the effort every time. Baylor, like you said, they've had a tough year. They're desperate, though. They need this. And they've got that freshman VJ Edgecombe who, people have been saying this guy's a first-round draft pick. And, I mean, I see where, I think he's a guy who's probably not ready for the NBA just quite yet, but he's so athletic, and you see all the talent. And I think if they're going to win, he's going to have a monster game. He's going to have a huge game, and Norchad Omier is going to have to dominate inside. And if they can do that, they get the crowd behind them, maybe they have a chance. I don't like betting against Houston, especially in the conference. But I feel like you could make an argument either way in this one.
Yeah, Omier from Miami, another transfer.
Yeah, I mean, they've got talent. Baylor's got some talent. They've got some young guys, and then they've got
Jeremy Roach too, the freaking 97-year Duke.
Yeah, they've got a couple old transfers to go with some young guys. It's a weird mix of really old veterans and freshmen. So you can tell they've had a hard time trying to figure it out. They've definitely had some injuries too. So
they got a lot of experience on this. I could kind of see Baylor. I kind of like Baylor in this game, actually. Now I'm thinking about it.
And I feel like Houston's record in the conference is a little too good for how close their games have been at times. Like, they haven't dominated to the point where they should be like 18-1 and everybody else is way back. I feel like they're not that much better than some of the other top teams in the conference, but Baylor has not been like, their last couple wins are against some of the worst teams in the conference. But like you said, they need this game.
They played February 10th. Houston won by 11. And then last year they played at Baylor, and Houston won by 6 in overtime. So That's got to be in their heads. Again, they got new guys like Roach wasn't on the team last year. Omir wasn't on the team last year, but like there's other guys. Obviously, Scott Drew he's still the coach there, right? Scott Drew.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think they definitely have the ability to win this game. They've got the talent.
Yeah, but you're right though. Houston's just like they're just grind. Like it will look close, and then Houston will just grind it out, and they'll win by 5.
You just don't want to bet it. You just don't want to bet against a team like that that's just so consistent, just always brings it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You're gonna lose a lot betting against a team like that.
It's gonna be a cool game to watch though at 10:00 tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And then we got your boys BYU at 10:00, minus 12.5 home against Utah. So it's the Mormons against the Mormons there in Utah.
I'm probably taking BYU against everybody for the rest.
There was a crazy show on Netflix. I forget what it was called, but it was like took place in the West, and like they had, whoever the guy who started the Mormons, Joseph Smith, I think it was, but like they had him in it, and then they had like the Indians, and they had like these, the Cowboys and the Army, and the Mormons were like all corrupt and shit. It was fucking crazy. It was a crazy ass show.
It's kind of strange. We've seen a few shows about the Mormons.
Did you see that?
We drove through there last year too, through that area.
Oh, really? Where?
When we were on that road trip.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't really know too much about the Mormon history. Like, I really haven't studied it, but it seems like they went out there and they kind of like they did what they had to do to keep that land. So they did some shady stuff. It sounds like.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they were going against a lot of shit, like the Indians, the government. So it was just like the Wild West out there.
Free for all.
Yeah.
I like this BYU team, though. I know I've talked about it a lot, but they're one of the teams that I wouldn't be shocked to see make a deep run.
They're playing great right now,
and they're probably not going to be seeded that high. I mean, they didn't have a great first half of the season, but they're playing really well now. I think I've got them ranked like number 5 in my poll. So,
well, listen to this. So they played January 18th this year. Utah won by 1 in overtime, and then Utah beat them the last time they played them in Utah, 73-69. BYU, the last time they played in BYU, they won 75-66. So a little bit of a revenge game for Brigham Young here, and they destroyed Kansas at home. They went to Arizona. They won by 1. They destroyed West Virginia at home, and then a great win against Iowa State by 3 on the road. And then Utah on the road got beat up by Arizona. They lost to UCF. They lost to Cincinnati by 10. They lost to West Virginia by 19. This is kind of I guess you could say is this like a rivalry game? I guess it is.
I guess. Utah.
I don't know. I don't really know the history of
team.
Utah to bring them in. Huh?
Utah's been a tough team at home at times, but they've also been just annihilated a few times too. And I think BYU is playing as well as anybody not named Florida or Duke. So.
Yeah, and 12.5. So you like that?
Yeah,
with BYU.
I'm taking BYU probably for the rest of the season in each game they play because I think they're undervalued. So whatever their spreads are, I feel like
that's the key word there. That's the key word there. So you feel like the spreads are going to get a little bit higher and higher. So right now it's a good value at 11.5 on FanDuel. You can get the best spread. Josh and I are in Florida, so the best thing we can get is Hard Rock.
It's nice to have that.
Yeah, and it's good to have at least one, but you can't choose from the different spreads, obviously. But here it looks like FanDuel is the best, 11.5. But yeah, I'm going to go with BYU in that game as well. The total is 153.5. Let me just see what the.
I think I'm going to take BYU to win the Big 12 tournament also.
Like probably pretty good odds on that, right?
Yeah, I like them. I feel like they're playing better than anybody right now.
Yeah, and then last year I think they lost in the first round of the tournament, but I think they're probably better this year, right?
Oh, they're much better. This might be the best BYU team I've ever seen.
No, BYU was in the freaking WCC all those years, and Gonzaga just owned them. Year after year after year after year, So
this team's different, and they've got a first round draft pick on this team. They've got a couple other guys that are making a run. This Richie Saunders guy, man, he probably won't get drafted, but it will not surprise me if he finds his way into the NBA. He's playing great, and I mean he looks like the best player on the floor the majority of the time when I watch them, and it's crazy. He's not a guy you'd ever think would be the best player, but he's just doing it so consistently.
I'm trying to see where Ken Palm has BYU. I know you had them in the top 10, right? Your top 10.
I have
right?
them number 5 right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know it's crazy, but I really like them.
Yeah, Ken Palm's got them 23.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, even if they're maybe it's somewhere in between. Maybe it's like somewhere between 5 and 23. Maybe it's like 15.
My poll's much different because it's not like when you're having to factor in stats over the course of the season, there's going to be that draw, like it's going to make them fall. And I throw that out the window in mine. Like if you were a different team 2 months ago, and I don't care what you did early in the season, like those first 10 games don't matter if you're playing completely different now. Like, so I have the luxury of being able to move a team from 40 to 5 in 1 week if I feel like they're just playing great. And when you're throwing in all these metrics and using all these stats, you can't move. You can only move so far in a short time.
It's a good guide to use. Obviously it's not gospel, but all right. So that's pretty much it. I mean, Nevada, San Diego State at 10:30. And actually sorry. California, San Diego. They are 27-4. That game is at 11. I wonder if that'll be on TV because Ken Palm's got them. I think he's got them in their like the top 40. Yeah, 38 overall. He's got them.
San Diego.
Have you seen them play?
You see San Diego? Yeah. I mean, I've watched them a little bit. I mean, not a whole lot, but they just look way too small and not athletic enough for me. Like that whole conference is just. I'd be shocked if they could.
They won at Utah State. That's a good win.
That's a good win.
That's about it, though. They played San Diego State at the beginning of the year. They lost by 5 at San Diego State. That's not bad either. So yeah,
I'll definitely have to watch them again. I haven't seen much, but that conference
never does anything. The Big West, it never does anything.
They just don't have the same caliber athletes, They got talent, but they're just smaller and not as athletic. They all play underneath the rim, You're not going to see guys. You're not going to see many dunks. You're not going to see putbacks. You're not going to see rebounding above the rim, and it's hard when you play like that and you go up against teams that can play above the rim. Like you basically, there's nothing you can do just watching guys up there dunking while you're on the floor. Like I've been a part of a game like that in like a rec league where you've got a team that plays below the rim playing against some guys that are above the rim. Yeah. It's a problem.
Yeah. One Sunday game to talk about, noon on CBS, Michigan versus Michigan State. No line yet, but what do you think of Michigan? I don't know about Michigan, but what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think about Michigan State?
I don't trust Michigan at all. Like they are a confusing team. They're capable. I do like their big guys. Danny Wolf, he's playing phenomenal. He's making a professional career for himself. He came from Yale. He was on that Yale team last year that won.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So he's great. He's really fun to watch. If you haven't watched him this year, he's a big guy he's one of the best passers in the country at 7 feet tall.
Do you think Auburn gets knocked off? Like they can get knocked off early again, or you think last year, now they're more focused, like they're going to at least Elite 8 this year? All right, we lost Josh there, but again, they did lose to freaking Yale in the first round. But sometimes, like Virginia, right when they lost to Baltimore, Maryland in the first round, that huge upset, and then they won the national championship the next freaking year, which was crazy.
So I don't think there's much chance of Auburn losing their first game.
Yeah.
And I think they're just so talented that it's going to be hard for anyone to beat them, but much less anyone they're playing in the first round or two. But, Sweet 16, I feel like they have an off night. They could be vulnerable, but
yeah,
they're not going to be losing to a 16 seed.
Yeah, no, they'll probably pick it up here down the stretch. They're playing a little bit slow, but we'll see how they play against Alabama. That's definitely the best game with Duke, North Carolina. There's some good games for sure. No more real Sunday games that I see here, but Michigan State, real quick. Do you like them
I
a lot?
like them. Yeah, they're playing super hard. Great rebounding as always. But
Yeah.
like Tom Izzo, him and Roy Williams really mastered how to rebound. I feel like every year their teams were the best rebounding team. Didn't matter who they even had. Like their guys inside, you wouldn't think they're going to dominate you inside, but they do it every game. Their guards are really good. They've really maxed out this year. I feel like this isn't the most talented Michigan State team I've seen, but they get the most out of what they've got. And I trust them a lot, and I don't trust Michigan at all. I think Michigan State actually already wrapped up the conference, so they may not even need this, but this is a huge rivalry for them too. And yeah, I'm going with the team that I trust, and that's Michigan State. I don't know what the spread is in that game, but
No,
I'm sure it's probably pretty
yet.
close. It's probably pretty close spread. Michigan's at home. They've had a decent season. Their record's pretty good. They were leading the conference for a long time. They kind of fell off down towards the end.
I want to show this real quick. This is Joey brackets. His brackets. I want some of the matchups like Auburn. He has playing Kansas or New Mexico in the second round. Yeah, I don't see them losing to one of those teams.
No way.
Oregon, Arizona, Boise State. Xavier could be, or Oregon could maybe be a little bit of trouble there.
Yeah, I mean, if Broome is banged up and not running well and he's at half speed, I don't see any of those teams beating him really, though. Xavier's tough, but Auburn they've got a different level of talent this year. And it's one of those, I'd be surprised if they don't make the Elite Eight probably this year. Just because they've been the best team for a large chunk of the season. And
yeah,
your chinks in the armor down the stretch here, which
they got knocked out in the first round. They got some better talent this year as well, for sure.
Yeah, they'll be on notice, I'm sure.
Duke, just some of these second round matchups, possibly Duke, UConn, Duke, Vanderbilt. That's interesting. Houston versus Gonzaga. That's or Mississippi State. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. What other 1, 2? Florida against Creighton. That could be interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
And then what's the last one here?
There's going to be at least a few crazy upsets. There always is.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But this year, these top teams have seemed to separate themselves a little bit for me, and the SEC kind of hides that a little bit just because they're going to beat each other up. There's going to be some losses, but to me, Florida, Alabama, Duke, and Auburn have been at a different level than everybody else for most of the season. And
yeah, I agree. Like Florida and Duke, to me, are the most two impressive. But again, I've kind of seen Auburn on the back end where they're not really playing that great, and I already got burned by them last year, so I still have a sour taste in my mouth. But again, we'll see what they do in the conference tournament. We'll see what they do tomorrow against Alabama. And then we'll make our judgments. But we'll be back next week again for more picks. We'll see how we fare with these picks. I think Josh has got about 4 or 5 picks. I got about 6 or 7. So we'll see how we do. Any last words?
Trying to see if we missed any. I recorded some of my picks here.
Okay.
Trying to make sure.
Actually,
Georgia was the one I liked. Georgia was the one I liked the most. BYU also. Alabama. Texas A&M. Missouri.
I like Texas A&M.
Yeah, and I like Missouri too.
Okay.
And with those St. John's in there too.
Oh yeah, you did mention St. John's at the beginning. Texas A&M, what are they giving? 20, I think it is.
I saw 5.5. Against LSU at LSU.
Oh, maybe I'm way off on that. Okay,
I got St. John's +2 against Marquette. Missouri -4.5. Kentucky. Georgia -3.5. Vanderbilt. Texas A&M -5.5, LSU. Alabama +8.5 at Auburn, and BYU -12.5 Utah. That's what I've got written down over here.
Okay, yeah, and I have Missouri -4.5 with Josh. I have the over in the Georgia game, over 49. So Josh likes Georgia. I like the over. I'm going to take Georgia too, though. Wisconsin, with you. Wisconsin minus 11, Tennessee minus 15.5, Bama plus 7.5, Indiana minus 1.5. And then I wanted to talk about the Arkansas Mississippi State game. I forgot to talk about that game because I do have a pick in that game. So I guess we'll
Two
finish.
teams I don't trust at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Arkansas in that game though.
Yeah, I mean they're both very talented teams, a lot of talent. But
yeah, I know you did say you liked Mississippi State. It's kind of a weird spread, but it was a weird spread when Arkansas was playing 2 games ago and they got destroyed on the road by like 30 against who the hell did they play? South Carolina or something? They got absolutely obliterated on the road.
Yeah, it was weird. It was
Calipari was wearing that horrible Nate Oates type jacket. And
yeah, it was right after beating somebody good too. Like
the spread was weird. I was looking, I'm like, what the? And this spread seems kind of fishy to me too. They're getting 1.5 at home against Mississippi State. Does that seem off to you?
I mean, is Adu Thiero back yet? He was out for them.
I think he's still questionable.
I think they're a lot worse when he's out of the lineup. I'd probably lean towards Mississippi State. They've disappointed me lately. I really expected more from them, and they've been up and down. But it's a really tough conference, and they're just not quite there yet. They've taken some lumps, but they're still a very good team. Like in the tournament, they're dangerous.
Thiero is out. He's still out.
Yeah, it'd be hard for me to bet on Arkansas without him. I think he's pretty important for them.
And they're still on the bubble.
Yeah.
Right?
But they've got super talented players. They've got a couple freshmen that are very good. If they play well, they could win. But, you just don't know what team's going to show up.
Right now, he's got them as a last 4 bye. So they're in the first 4 right now.
It's surprising that they've got them in right now. I'm kind of surprised that they're in. But, it's the Calipari effect, too. And it's the fact that they've got pros on their team. They've got multiple guys who are going to be NBA players, so they're always capable of winning a game. But the fact they lost by 30, that was South Carolina, right? Who's been the worst team in
South Carolina. They lost by 19, but they were getting destroyed even worse than that. I think.
Yeah, it was really bad. I think I bet on Arkansas in that game too, so I was like.
They were coming off wins against Missouri and Texas, so they were just feeling themselves a little bit. But then they bounced back with a good win by 13 at Vanderbilt. Yeah, so I feel like they've kind of righted the ship. Mississippi State, last 2, they got blown out by Alabama, and they lost to 6 at Oklahoma. So they just lost to Texas by 5 at home. They beat LSU. So I feel like, I don't know, it's a weird spread, minus 1.5. And I like the total over. I like over 147.5.
Yeah, I like that. Both teams' defense not great.
Yeah.
Probably be a lot of points. And there's so much talent on both teams. I like the over more than anything, for sure.
I'll be a little bit cautious on that Arkansas spread. I'll bet it's small, but the over.
Yeah, because it's just those teams you can't trust. You don't want to be putting too much money on the teams you don't trust very much.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you lose to South Carolina like that, it's just weird. But Calipari's teams always seem to do that. Like they're hot for a stretch and they'll have these boneheaded games. It just seems like they always do that. All right, that's it. Any last players you want to talk about or teams before we get out of here?
I mean, not anything extra than what we've talked about. Mainly, Florida and Duke. Like I said, I think they're playing the 2 best teams. We could throw in Duke there. If I wasn't a Carolina fan, I'd probably bet Duke just because I bet them every game. I do think Carolina's playing better, but I just don't think they're big enough to be able to really hang. And, I could see Carolina maybe starting off quick, maybe, and that's like the only chance they have, I think, is to get a lead, get the crowd really into it, and try to pull off a miracle because they're just – Duke and Florida just seem to be the cream of the crop to me, and BYU coming on strong. Those are the teams I'd be looking to bet on as much as I could.
Yeah, and we did lean the over in the Duke North Carolina game. So
yeah, but BYU in the conference tournament, I think, would be a good value bet because they're not going to be the favorite. They might be like the 3rd or 4th favorite to win the tournament. So,
all right, your best bet of the day. What would be your best pick?
Best pick. What did I have there? I think Missouri I liked a lot. Georgia I liked a lot. And BYU. I'd say those three. Probably feel the best about those.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see how it all ends up. We'll be back next Friday to recap it all. Maybe Thursday, but probably Friday, since we can get the spreads out because they don't release them until the day before. So that's it, Josh. Thanks for coming back on. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
All right. Yeah.